Hello, everyone, and welcome to Marriage Motivating Moments with yours truly, Elianah and Emmanuel. We are so
But you
glad you
forgot our
decided.
names for a second there. I know you ain't forget
We
my
are so
name.
glad you decided to join us on this Tuesday evening. You could have done anything and been anywhere on anybody's live, but we are so grateful that you decided to stop by and have this conversation with us. Listen, this is a good topic tonight.
I don't know about
It's
this.
going to be juicy as usual. It's going to be good, and we're going to keep it 100. But first, let me say thank you to those of you who continue to support us, to come on our lives and be with us live and have the conversation. Thank you to those of you who go and watch us on the replay and message us with your encouraging words and everything like that. We want to say thank you so very, very much. It is our pleasure to serve you, and we believe that we are doing what the greater one has called us to do in this dispensation of time. So we want to say thank you. We don't take it lightly, but we are glad you're here. Listen, if you know somebody who has a blended family, working through it, engaged, married, get ready to do this, listen, hit them up and tell them to come on. Babe, here you go. This is why we having this conversation. He don't like the fact that I say blended family, but it is a blended family when you two families come together. So let's jump right in, right? So blended family is the terminology.
So I want to say good evening to everybody.
Well,
and plus she forgot my name for a second.
I
mean,
didn't
like
you
did so. I watched you. You was like Elianah and like what's his name again?
Because I was going to say Elianah Connie. Yours truly, Elianah Connie.
Well, then you should have said it, but
I didn't.
You hesitant when you got to my name. It got to be free flowing after all this 30 plus years of being together. But I ain't with this blended. I mean, where did that come from? What that's about? I don't
so blended family came into being many years ago, and it was because when I was reading, it was because people didn't want to use the term stepmother, stepfather, stepchildren.
I don't use blended on step.
But you asked me where did it come from? So that's how it actually.
They need to throw it back. Always making up something.
That's how it actually came into being. However, the fact of the matter is that two families do become one. A lot of times in marriage and in relationships, two families do become one. However, in my counseling with couples, one thing I have shared with them one of our initial conversations is that we are just not blending families. When say blending means when you have children prior to marrying your mate or, getting with your mate, you may have children that are a part of your life, your birth children, right? And so what I share with couples is that actually families coming together, a husband and a wife has to be blended, right? Because our beliefs have to come together, our cultures come together, our standards come together, our livelihoods come together. And so there's a process that I call blending. Blending is just like, and I use this analogy, it's like making a smoothie. You put all these different kind of fruits in the smoothie. Babe, come on, let me get through my introduction. So I use it as the analogy of making a smoothie. When you're making a smoothie, right, you have your blender, and then you put all these different kind of ingredients in the blender, thinking that it's just going to, once you blend it, it's going to come out, it's going to be smooth, it's going to taste good, and you're going to go right to drinking it, right? However, there are times when you're making that smoothie, you may blend it and you open it up and you're like, oh shoot, it's still lumpy. So you got to put it back on the blender. Then you say, oh, it need a little bit more of agave. Oh, a little bit more of strawberry. So what I'm saying is you have to continue to blend it till you get a smooth consistency where it tastes good, where it's good going down, and you're enjoying the smoothie. For me, I explain it's the same thing in relationships. In a relationship, you're blending two cultures. Two individuals are blending. We're coming together. We're getting to know each other. We're getting to know one another's beliefs, our understandings, how we live, how we eat, how we drink. We're blending. Hubby and I blended over the years. It just didn't happen. We just didn't become automatically one, but it took some time for us to blend together to become this very fine unit that we have become. And so that's where I call the blending from.
That's growth and development.
Right.
Because first of all, when I met my Isha, when I met my wife, of course she had a son and he was 7 going on 8. And I knew she had a son. You all know the story. We got married. I proposed to her within 30 days of meeting her. We got married five months later. But the first time I went to where my wife was living with her mother, and I went into her bedroom because I had a chance to go into her bedroom, and I saw that um, my son was sleeping near his mother, but on a pallet on the floor, and she was in a single bed. The next day, I came with a bunk bed to take the baby off the floor and let him sleep on a bed. Now that's called responsibility because I knew that moment that she was going to be my wife. I already knew it. So I accepted the responsibility from the door immediately. So therefore, I don't know nothing about this blended. It's a part of whoever's in my household. Whoever comes into my household is a part of my family and is my responsibility as the man. No matter if I'm his biological father or not, but it was my responsibility as a man to provide and to maintain. So that's the only blending I can know of is on our bank accounts. Ain't no other blending taking place other than me taking my responsibility to say, I'm going to raise this child as my own, even though my son, my firstborn at that time, little Shahid, was only 2 years old. So the point is that and it was my aunt, Eliris that was alive, Eliris, that told me, she said, ain't no such thing as stepchild. I didn't even mention it to her. I just introduced him at the first time. And so it was always my desire for my children in my home to have my name, to be a part of my legacy, and to upbring them and to provide. So it didn't matter to me. She could have had 3, 4 children. I'm happy she didn't have a bunch of baby kids at the time. But the fact of the matter is, he was a very highly intelligent young man. He was very handsome. He was very spiritual, grounded. He was very focused. He was very driven, and he was very spoiled. But the fact is that I loved him from the door as my firstborn child because he was older than my biological son. But once the master of the universe blessed me with her, I had to accept and embrace everything that was a part of her. The only thing over time is that as we grew, our children grew with us. And so in that process, didn't make a difference if I birthed him or was his biological father. He was in my home. So I had to nurture him and care for him and look after him as if he was my own. So therefore, it was some getting used to. Heck, me and her had to get used to each other. So I don't know about, she keep talking this blended stuff. For me, it's about me being the man that I am, standing on my dean and my responsibility to take care of whatever came with the package, because the child came with the package. And if you can't just fall in love, brother, with the woman and you think you're going to not take care of the package. No, it don't work that way. Because that's like I told his father. I called his dad up. And I told his father, after time, I saw that he still had a burning desire to be nurtured by his biological father. And I told his father, I can do what I'm have to do on my end, but you have a responsibility for your son. So I called his father up man to man. I'm not trying to take your place. I'm going to be who I'm supposed to be in my kingdom, and he's going to benefit from that. So I challenged his father to step up. And then the other thing is that what was so beautiful was that his grandfather came to me and thanked me for how well I took care of his grandson from the door. And I told him, I said, it's what we do as spiritual men and men who are focusing on their dean correctly. So I don't see it as a blending. I just see it as a part of responsibility, because how can I love her and not love what comes from her? You feel what I'm saying? So that was just a different page for me. I don't know how these guys out here doing it, but we can go on and get into some of this, because I do have some baby mama drama that even we went through with my firstborn and his mother. Because women be like, she ain't your mother. She ain't your mother. She can't put her hands on you. She can't tell you what to do. Whoa, you ain't running my household, partner.
She did.
Well, because women get to a certain degree, yes. So the point is that I'm making is that now that's something that I just don't tolerate. So I just want to put that out there from the start, because it's about how a man comes into. Because I can't speak about what a woman does, but a man's responsibility from the door. Because you can't fall in love with the woman and you ain't gonna fall in love with what she birthed into existence.
Absolutely.
So that's how I just saw that.
Absolutely. And I agree with you, honey. But I'm saying there are people, that is how we saw it even from the door. However, there are those who are experiencing even now, people are getting married, they're engaged, they have children from other relationships, and they want to know about the responsibility and how that actually should look. Although my husband is correct, he came from the door like, hey, I'm gonna take care of him, this is that, the other. He was like that from the door. However, every relationship does not have that type of man nor that type of woman. And then the other thing is that even with him saying that, I was still up against a battle. Like he said, his previous wife, his son's mother, I had a very hard time. I had a lot of baby mama drama, and I took care of his son like he was mine. Because when I married him, I knew that I was getting his son. He was 2 years old, right? And so I said to him,
I'll never forget the first day you met him.
Yeah.
He had on his little red shirt and his red jeans. And y'all think we matched? Man, she went in the house, took that baby with her, and put on a red top and blue jeans, and they took pictures together. I mean, it was just so, I will never forget that. It was so
and he
beautiful.
was only 2 years old. And so at 2, it was more easily for him to respond to me and to connect to me because he was such a young age. However, we do have those family members who, you marry somebody, their child is 8, 9, 10. They already have an opinion. They already feel like their mother and their father should be together. They don't want to know who you are. Why are you dating my daddy? Why are you dating my mommy? Where's my father? And even with children, it's something in them that they desire for their parents to be together. My husband and I even say that now. We can still see it even with his other children, that, there is a desire, and rightly so. Nobody's mad about it, that the child wants their two parents to be together. However, reality is that that's not going to happen. And so we have to learn, and you have to learn how to manage that relationship with those children. And am I going to say that it's going to be easy? Absolutely not.
It's not going to be
easy.
It's
not going to be easy. However,
it ain't going to be easy with your own children.
It's not easy with your
own children. Forget about somebody else.
But
it ain't going to be easy with your own children.
But I think that what's important, babe, is that you have the support of your mate, when raising that child or when bringing that partner in. So it's very important that if it's a man, that he introduces his children to the woman and vice versa. I think that once you all know that you're going to actually try to build and establish something together, that you need to involve the children and let the children know that this is the person that I'm going to be with, and this is the person I'm going to have a relationship with.
But there has to be a limit on that, because children have the ability to manipulate the situation to their own advantage. So you got to be very careful about that. You got to introduce them, build the relationship, this, that, and the other. But if they got some other negativity feeding into their ear, like their mother or from their father, like he better not put his hands on you, or he better not do this, that, and other. Well, probably I'm made to cast out, dip, and steal. Nothing hurting on me but God and the host of angels. You better back up off of that tune. But I'm going to tell you this, I will discipline correctly all of my children and use the same level of balance, but I have compassion and understanding and recognizing the challenges that come with this, a child that's not actually my biological child, or children that's not hers. So sometimes, people will try to create conflict in your home, other relatives, people on the other side of the children. So we got to be mindful of that, so that therefore, you don't want to end up in a situation where you're taking out animosity on the children because of the conflict and the hassle that the parent, the baby mama or daddy drama that you may be facing. So therefore, that is the other challenge, because we are human beings, and sometimes we fall into that trap. And I always say it's the trap of the adversary that want to also create conflict in your home because of outside forces working against you. So you got to stay prayed up, but you got to stay focused and understanding the complexities of what you're dealing with. And so in doing that, like I went through some drama. I mean, with my children, I went through some drama. I mean, and it was unnecessary drama, but I had to go through it. You feel what I mean? So, like a lot of people, oftentimes when you got children and you see that the other person have moved on with their life and they doing things with their family and etc., and they include all of their children in that process, then you got another parent that want to bring you some drama. So the first thing people go and do, well, I'm taking you to court for child support. Why are you doing that? If you know that person is taking care of that child and this, and that, why are you going to do that? Why don't you just take him to court for a shared parenting plan. Not to talk about I'm going child support for what? If he's there and he's taking care of his children and he sees his children regularly, or she sees her children regularly, and why you got to go that route? If you really care about the child, then it should be about the parenting plan. That's why the state of Florida switched the game up. You can't go to them just for child support. You got to come from a parenting plan first. And see, and that is to make certain that the shared responsibilities in raising that child takes place and everybody is involved for the best interest of the child. Because down the road, all that conflict you put into that child later on is going to rebel when they grow older, and you're going to have a bigger problem coming back at you.
But I think that it's also important that each individual parent tries to establish a relationship, and you have to have the support of
but
the
you
man.
Can't buy the relationship.
No, but you
and
can't.
You can't
what
force
I'm saying
yourself
is
on
you
it.
have to. But like, I needed your support in raising little Shahid, right? I needed your support in raising your other 3 children. Like, if I didn't have you backing me and saying, you know what I'm saying? Well, no. Because there was times I was like, babe, you can't, even when Chris was little, I would be like, babe, you can't yell at him, or you can't put your hands on him. And then the same thing with his mother. I mean, she took me to court. Like, I don't want her touching him. I don't want her saying this. I don't, all that kind of drama, putting these stipulations on my parenting or our parenting of our children. And so it became very, very difficult. And I did not put my hands on her son, because for the simple fact, I didn't want to be going back and forth to court.
Let me say this. See, this is.
But that's why we did it, babe.
But this is kind of language I disagree with.
What?
Okay. I didn't put my hands on her.
I didn't discipline her.
He was your son.
Right, but son. It was at the end of the day.
Just like Nasi is
babe,
my son.
I get that. Okay,
but
we understand
words and
that.
languages make minds. No,
words and languages make mine in our house.
So
in our house, but people don't understand that. Some people don't understand that.
Well, we got to make it.
And then the other thing is that. The other thing, yes, that's in our household, but a lot of times you have families and blended families, and that person doesn't necessarily become mommy, or he don't become daddy. You understand what I'm saying? That means
people shouldn't bring folks up in your house unless it's going that direction.
No, because I disagree, because a lot of people could be, we could have raised our children. You could have been Mr. Shahid. I could have been Miss Connie.
And it
wouldn't be nothing wrong with it.
No, it wasn't that way.
But honey, that's
not how we built.
But that's
so
how
let's
we
deal with our reality. I'm
dealing with our reality, but I'm dealing with the people's reality too, babe. You got to keep it 100. What a lot of people are dealing with.
People want to learn from what we talk.
We can interject that, but the reality is that a lot of folk are not saying, that's my daddy, that's my mom. They will say that's Mr. So-and-so, or that's Miss So-and-so, especially when you have teenagers. Teenagers don't necessarily want to call you. Had my son been 16 or 17, it might have been a different relationship. You understand? But that's all I'm saying. So some of the people who are viewing this, they have children that are teenagers, okay, or 10, 11, and 12, and still feel like, I'm not going to call her mommy. I might call her Miss So-and-so or Miss So-and-so. And even with your other 3 children, I never said that they had to call me my little Shahid. When I raised him, that was my baby. But I never said he got to call me mommy. He kind of grew into that because all of his other siblings, his brothers, were calling me mommy. So he grew into just saying mommy, right? Mm-hmm. But your other children, by the time they come along, my kids are big, they're adults, your children are little. They come into an existence. They're in a relationship. They know their mother. They're with their mother. They live with their mother. So they didn't necessarily want to call me mommy. And I was okay with that. And I told you,
but they were babies. They came from the womb.
Babies, but as they got older,
as they got older, the negative influence came in because of envy, evil inclination, envy, jealousy, whatever it may be, bitterness, whatever it may be. But the point of the matter is that became the battle for me to offset that baby mama drama, for an example. I'm not in any way, don't no one misinterpret what I'm saying. I'm not going to dishonor or throw their mother under the bus or what have you, no matter what transpired. I'm not doing that. But what I'm talking about is the experience that went through, and the experience that we go through even as parents from our own children. Because as far as I'm concerned today, this is the most rebellious population of children in existence. And it's a reason for it, but that's another show. But the point I'm making here is the fact that it's always been about, for us in our home, divine marriage and divine family and raising our children in a divine order. And so as a result of that, I think at the end of the day, we did a fabulous job in terms of raising 8 children, 7 boys and 1 girl. So
I don't know. We did fabulous.
We did fabulous.
I think we did a good job.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. Have we went to any penitentiary?
No.
Okay.
We haven't
Have they been
anything.
involved in any gun shooting?
No, they have not.
Have they been involved in out here killing and mistreating?
They have not.
So therefore, we did a fabulous job.
What I will say is,
it was they praying children.
It was
know how
very
to pray.
challenging.
But ain't nothing
extremely challenging to raise another woman's children. Very challenging, and I will not. And I have to say
it's
that
the same thing in terms of raising another man's son.
Absolutely. So I'm not. I'm speaking to the sisters is out there,
and
I'm trying to tell you that I don't want y'all to think that it was easy. It was very, very challenging. Many nights of crying, praying, asking God, Holy Spirit, for direction on how to move, what to say, what not to do. Because not only that, but not only was I being challenged by the mother, but I was also being challenged by the children. And so I always knew how I wanted my children to be raised. And I would tell God, please help me. Because at this point, I really don't care. I want to give up. I don't care what they do. I knew this was my thing. For me, I knew that there was a reason why God had placed them in my life. And I had to give them what I gave the rest of my children as far as growth and development
and discipline,
and whether order, I wanted to or not. Because I really felt like I didn't want to. I didn't care. Discipline in the fact that no, I could whip my children and not hear nothing about it, right? I could knock them upside their head. I could do what I wanted to my babies, and I wasn't going to hear nothing. However, the other set of children, I could not do any of that because I was being called to court or defects for saying the wrong words or anything. I was just being blamed for
that's the other
crazy
thing. Well,
stuff.
Let's talk about that defects. In New Jersey, it's called DIFAS. In Georgia, it's called defect. I mean, they done came knocking on our door for some of the most ridiculous things.
Absolutely.
And they done came in here, and I was like, what do y'all want?
They came to my job.
All right. I'm like, what do y'all want? What do y'all want? What do y'all want? What do y'all want? And found absolutely nothing. And I mean, like, it's the same thing when I went through custody battle. I mean, I won custody. A black man won custody in Georgia of his children, all 3 of them, and they're young. I mean, that's huge.
And he showed up at my door with all 3.
Listen, they come home.
First of all, I didn't even know. All I know is he was like, they live in here. What?
No, they was already coming
they were coming every other weekend.
And during the weekend.
But this time he shows up with that at the door like, they live in here.
Because I went to court and said, I'm going to get custody. I'm fighting for custody of my children. The brothers in the barbershop down here said, man, you will never get custody in Georgia. 3 children too? What? God was with me. I ended up with custody of all my children. Okay. Yeah. And I went to war to get them. But the point is
because they felt like it was a better situation for them to be with their father at that time. Yes, it is. That's how you won, babe.
I won because they felt that I was a good parent.
That's what I said. Okay, it was a better situation for them to be with your father.
Yeah, I'm not throwing nothing to say that like.
But in that moment, babe, that's how we got custody of the baby. That's 100. That ain't.
I proved that they would be better with me. That's how I won custody.
However you want to fix it.
Okay, right. That's the way it was. I proved. Okay. What do you mean?
They were going to be better off with us. That's why the judge ended up. Because if they wasn't, they would have just went ahead and let them go with their mom.
Because I proved how good I could take care of my baby.
Absolutely. That's all. You doing excellent, and you did an excellent job.
Yeah. Okay, but what I'm pointing out is this, and the important thing is for us as men, regardless. We got to stay involved in our children's lives, regardless to the baby mama drama. It can't be about, okay, I'm just going to pay child support and I ain't going to be bothered with them. Let them go stay over there. Now let them stay with her. Let them stay with him. I don't care. I'm just going to drop the money off or send the money however, and I'm not going to be involved. No, you cannot dress that. I'm a Zelle. I'm a Cash App. I'm a Western Union, the whole 9. No, you cannot do that. You cannot allow anything because there was never a price that they could put on me for child support for my children. They can never calculate how much was. Who are you sitting on this bench? You don't know nothing about my child. You gonna tell me I need to just, oh, you just give them this amount each month? What? Go sit down somewhere. I went way beyond that. But the point is this, is that we have to be, when you come together, and I have to go back to this, when you come together in a family, it's a family. And you got to come together with that understanding, that compassion, and work that thing out. But the key thing is that these two got to be on one accord first, then the children.
And I think
it's about these two,
is going to be very
but it's about
important.
these two, and then these two developing them and showing them the pathway that we're going to choose. They're not going to dictate nothing. Because when you let a child in to dictate and manipulate the situation, it's going to create, because then the child is going to, then they're going to try to divide they're going to say, Daddy, you don't care. Oh, I care. I understand what's going on. But just because I'm not doing what you want me to do does not mean that I don't know what's going on. Don't think that I'm closed, my eyes is closed, or mommy's eyes is closed and don't know what's happening. No, I know what's happening, but I'm not, I got to weigh and have balance of the situation. And I got to factor in my wife first and make certain between her and I, her position is a reasonable position and makes sense. And I factor in the factor of how it affects the child or what have you, or if they're being manipulated at the same time. Because once the seed is planted and they start to say, that ain't your mother, that ain't your father, you ain't got to do nothing they say, you ain't got to do nothing, then that creates in that child's mindset that they got an avenue of disobedience, or they got an avenue to manipulate a situation because they may not totally dig you. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And they got a desire for their parent. So you got to be careful about that too. That's the complexity part of this. Because then they go and manipulate. But if you two, like we come together and we understand, and even if we going through some hardship, because I may want to deal with it a little different than her, but I keep that between her and I.
And I think that helped us as well. Like I was very adamant about the children not seeing my husband and I argue. Even before his other children came into the picture, I was just a person that I did not want my children to grow up and think that a woman was supposed to go up against a man with her mouth and talk down to him and cuss him out and tell him off.
Then jump in. That ain't your child anyway.
Right. I was very adamant about not doing things like that, because I just felt like it would add fuel to the fire, and I did not want to do that. And so I would ask him, can we be private, can we go somewhere, and then there would be things like I can remember they would always, when they didn't like me or when I didn't like something, they say, oh, she told me to do this, and she
oh, that was a problem.
I'm not she, baby.
Because
I'm not your she.
But we had indicators,
right,
that we were able to identify that was signs that told us that somebody else was saying something. Because when they started to say she or her, we knew where that was coming from, Sure. And so when we realized that, then we understood how we needed to approach that. So it was a constant, and we had to stand firm. Regardless, we had to stand firm, because you're not going to control my home. So when you got those outside influence, you can't let that happen, and you can't be in. But the key thing in these situations is that no matter if the child was mine before hers or hers before me, we had to be firm, and we had to be compassionate.
Or yours after me, because they came after.
Okay,
so that's why I felt like I was never their stepmother, though. Like,
but I know you wasn't. You was just their Ema. It's plain and simple, because they slept in the bed as infants.
I know. I get that, honey. But I was very adamant about saying, I'm not your stepmother. I used to tell them, I'm not your stepmother. I'm not trying to take the place of your mother. I'm not your mother. I am your father's wife, and I'm your Ema, period. That's it. I'm not trying to do anything other than that. But because their mother was trying to imply other things. So I was real clear. I was very clear on my position, and the fact that I was still dealing with my own pain and my own frustrations that I had to work through as well. And I didn't want to put the blame on them, because it was like, it's really not their fault, right? It's
But the
really
point
not
is
the
this. But
children's
this is the
fault.
point I want to make.
But a lot of times we
But
try
this
to
is the
put it
point.
on them.
I never agreed with the term stepfather, stepmother. What we doing? We stepping? I mean, when we stepping, because I know how to step. You know, I know how to step. You want to dance and do the step? Because ain't no such thing to me, no step, nothing. Ain't no step. That, I mean, I don't know where they
Honey,
created
we know
this,
where it came
this
from.
nonsense.
Society.
No, I don't care about society. Society is whack right now. It's out of sync. So I don't want to care about this wicked
we know
society.
that. I mean, when my father got remarried, his wife was our stepmother. That's just how it went.
That's how it went in that household. It didn't go with me.
No, we didn't.
Because all my children carry my last name, even Nasi. Okay, even Christian, because the fact of the matter is,
until he got older, and
there was some other stuff that took place.
No, but I told you, even when you wanted to change his name, I said to you, I said he wants to be a Williams. That was his father's last name. I said he wants his grandfather and his father's last name, and when he gets older, I guarantee you, he's going to change his name, because there was a certain level of prestige that went with his name. He wanted to honor that his grandfather with that, and so he did that. But as in his early years, when we changed our name to Abraham, then he became Abraham. And then after years of that happening and that transition, then he changed his name as he got older and was an adult and was able to pay for it. He changed his name to Williams.
But the point I'm making is this: for me, I'm continue to feel this way, even for because all of my children gonna have children. They all have children. I prayerfully in my time. Okay, I don't know what's taking. I got 7 sons and I only got 2 grandchildren. That ain't adding up, because them 2 just came from 1 son. So I got 7 sons. I ain't like, hey, what's going on here? Stuff got to be working or something. Hey, any single women, let me know. If any single women got their thing together, come talk to me. I'll take care of everything.
They good. They good. No. Come talking to him. They're good.
Come talk to me. I take care of everything. But the point is this, right? The thing that I'm looking at is that it's important for me to make certain that one thing they can never, because this is one thing my children can never dispute. Each and every night, I would get up and go in each and every one of their rooms and kiss them on the forehead and turn on the light and make sure that they were safe and that they was in the covers and under the covers each and every night, that they in under our roof. I don't care what. So the point that I'm making is that it's our responsibility to understand that they are children. They are children. And so therefore, they're your children under your roof. So to me, it didn't matter with my wife if she had 3, 4 children.
Your son said 5 of your sons is under 30, so it's okay.
Relax. 5 of my sons is under 30. Yeah, but 2 of them is above 30, and only 1 above 30 got 2 children, and the other one, he needed to step on up.
They're on their way.
Okay, but the point of the matter is that y'all need to step on up, being that some of my sons on here is probably the ambassador, one I call the ambassador. But the point I'm making to you is this, is that it's important for me as a man that when you're the head of your family, that you understand the complexities of the situation. When you got other children and she has children, and it's your responsibility then to lead that family, to groom them, to develop them. Just like Nasik wasn't my biological firstborn son, but you couldn't fool nobody, because when he went to Morehouse, I paid for it. When he went to high school, in private high school, I paid for it out of my pocket. When he graduated from Morehouse, he ain't had 1 single debt. The day he graduated from Morehouse, this is a child that's not my biological, but I bought him a $400,000 home, 2-car garage with 2 brand new cars in the garage. I made sure when he graduated Morehouse, on paper, he was worth over $1 million. That's a fact. Nobody can dispute that. I didn't say anything else other than the fact that he was my oldest child, and he was and to me, he was the firstborn in my family. And my son that followed, he got his hand due, but based on what my hand was able to provide at that particular time. So the point I'm making is that I looked at him as mine. I didn't care about anything else. I looked at him and he was mine. And so whatever he needed, he had. He had a new car when he lived off campus, got him his own apartment, furnished it. That's what we did. So I didn't look at it like, okay, what you want, son? How you want to do this? That's how I looked at it, because I looked at it that he was the oldest of his siblings and he was the lead. So everybody else follows and they got their share as it went on, as long as my hand was able to provide it.
And he was a great lead.
And he was a great lead. It's absolutely no question about it. It was no question about it. So the point that I'm making to you is that we have to take on that kind of attitude and that kind of ruha, that kind of spirit in terms of being men and in terms of these families, because you got to understand, as a black man, I'm not trying to talk about nobody else, but as a black man, we have no other choice. We have no other choice, and we cannot leave our children without our involvement in this. It don't make no difference if it's yours. It takes an entire village to raise one child.
We have someone who's asking the question, what if you marry someone, or you in a relationship with someone who have grown adult children? I think that each household has to have that conversation, but I also think that the couple, as my husband said, is going to have to establish how that's going to be handled prior to you meeting those other children. Because if you have adult children, so that means you have a son that's 16,
another conversation.
17,
that's
18.
Another conversation.
It's a different kind of conversation because you got children who've already been reared, already been grown.
That's a whole nother conversation.
There's already some things that they've had learned, they've been established. And so you have to kind of almost wean your way into those relationships and wean your way into becoming that child's parent.
Well,
okay,
it's not even necessarily.
I think that at that age, if he's 16, 17,
if he's at that age or she's at
19,
that age,
20,
if she's at that age and he's at that age, it's not about me trying to be your parent. It's about me being a positive, how well I can help refine you as a human being and as a person at your age. And it's about me recognizing your growth and development at that point, and what aspect I can play in helping you further yourself. But the one thing is for certain, the person has to know your boundaries, because now they are under your roof, because you assuming the responsibility, especially as a man, for the upkeep and the welfare of that home. So you're not going to live under my roof and do your thing.
Right.
And you're not going to live, and you're not going to live under my roof if you 16 and 17 and in my presence and in my home and think you're going to talk to your mother any kind of way and back talking. Now, there's going to be some boundaries that has to be established, because this is my queen, and she ain't your equal. And in my eyesight, she ain't your friend. She's your parent. And there's a difference, because it's not about trying to be friends with your children. It's about being a parent and how well you can refine their character and help them remove the evil inclinations that's within their flesh. So the kind of relationship that I would want is a gradual relationship. Hey, Absolutely. How you doing? Very respectful. What you like to do? Okay, what you like to go? Okay, how can I support that? If you want my support in that area, I'm here to support you. If you don't, okay, let's go to dinner sometime. Hey, what you like to do? Okay, I like to go roller skating. Okay, well, let's go roller skating. I may fall a few times, but you're going to laugh. But okay, we'll put it on Instagram. I'm just going to try to build that kind of relationship. What you got going on in school? How your grades is going? I'm going to build that kind of relationship. You got problems with your teachers? Okay, let me email them. Let me step out of school and see them. That kind of being a supportive individual to come in and support what her and the other parent, either me and them or her and them, have been trying to do over the years. So when they get to be teenagers, it's a whole nother kind of thing, because kids, when they get teenage, they ain't trying to hang out with their parents. They trying to hang out with their friends.
Right. And even with your kids, I think that as they got older, then there was a different kind of relationship that I tried. I mean, well, they are your kids. No, honey. When with your children, those 3 children that you had in that relationship, as they got older, I tried to establish a different kind of relationship with them, so that they would know that my heart was pure and that what I gave them growing up,
I believe they definitely recognized that.
I wanted them to have that. I
And
imparted
then
to all of my other
and
children.
then they started to separate what the misinformation.
Right. But that was after they got
but
older.
that's what happens, because see, the problem is that we recognize is that children, when they get torn between parents, they become very confused. And when they become very confused, you got to have an understanding of what's going on with them and try to help them. That's why we went through counseling together with children, because when people start to tear you apart, then they tried to, the children started, but we wasn't going to have that. I mean, we just wasn't going to have, we was going to still continue to love them, continue to provide for them, continue to do all the things that's necessary, but we were not going to, one of the things we were not going to do, we was not going to belittle our standards and the things that we saw was necessary in our home. So
and somebody else, I know we're going on.
Yeah, we got
it's 7:41. We're gonna have to bring it to a close. We are going to do a part 2 because I would like to have a couple on that has blended the family and it's working very well for them. But listen, somebody asked the question: if the children are grown, wait a minute. What if the children are grown and don't talk with the dad because they don't like the wife? That is something that I have a girlfriend who's dealing with that, and vice versa. Now. Yeah,
they don't like the wife, and so they don't like the father. And then sometimes they, my wife was like, see, they just don't talk to you. They don't want to tell you because they think you're not going to listen, or they think you're going to do this, that, no, because see, first of all, I'm not going to let you manipulate the situation. I'm just not going to let that happen. So you think I don't understand what you're doing? You think I don't understand what you're coming from? You think I don't understand the factors that lead you to take the position that you're taking? Oh, right. I understand. Or
you don't want to speak to your father because you don't like the woman that
right.
He married, and he vice versa.
Or vice versa. Or you just don't think that I understand more than what you do. But I'm looking in the future and I understand what if I go on side, you want me to side with you against my wife. Oh, I will never do that. Even if I disagree with her, I will never disagree with her in your presence. I'm going to disagree with her privately. Now, you must understand. Now, there have been a couple of times I slipped up and say, babe, why you do that? And, excuse me, I'm admitting it. But the point of the matter is that when I did that, but I had to check myself. And so therefore, in that reality, I never took the position that I'm going to, side with my kids against my wife. And I'm not going to do that in front of them. That's not going to happen. Because once they see that, then they know that they got a crack. And they know then they can divide you. No, that's not going to happen. So we can never let that happen.
You can't never let that happen,
sisters and brothers. You can never let that happen. And then the point is that you deal with it and privacy, and you address it in privacy, and then you work it out. Now, we may be angry, but we ain't gonna let you know we angry about it. But we may get upset, but we're not gonna let you know. So therefore, but we will work it out.
And even in those instances, sometimes it's very difficult because sometimes in the moment, when things happen, you get aggravated in that moment and you might snap. But like my husband said, you got to regroup and kind of catch yourself and say, okay, wait a minute. I really should, in your mind, like I shouldn't have said that. And then go back and have that conversation, say, hey, we should have handled that a little bit differently because we didn't want the children to see that we were divided, or I didn't want your son to think that I was taking your side, or even I didn't want your daughter to think I was taking her side against you or anything like that. And so we have to, when you have those errors, you make those mistakes, acknowledge your mistake, and then go back.
Because the other thing is, and we may end on this, but the other thing, we're going to have part 2 on May 10th on our next show. But the other thing is this. We were able to identify how children will manipulate not only the parents right here, but even the other parent to get their way. So if they couldn't get their way with me, they're going to manipulate it with the other parent, or maybe with their mother. They couldn't get their way with their mother, then they come back over and try to manipulate it over here with me, not knowing that I may already be aware of the outcome that they went over at their mother's house. So then they come over here. Oh no, we're not playing that game, partner. We're not playing that game. Now, you may get it over there, and they say, oh, you ain't got to go over there. You ain't got to do this. You ain't got to do that. But over here, you're going to have to do. Now, there are certain things that you got to do, but in reference to these grown, the kids who are teenagers or 17, 18, even some
12,
kids today,
13,
something. I mean, they're growing up
mean,
fast today based on
yeah.
this whole social division or
Yeah.
wickedness that's taking place, that letting kids know you ain't got to be obeyed. I mean, first of all, let's understand this. They could be your own kids. This society tell you you still ain't got to listen to your parents.
Yeah.
They tell you you ain't got to obey your parents. They tell you if your parent put their hand on you or try to discipline you, you know, like back in the day, my mama and my grandma, go out there and get me a switch. You come back with a little old tweet, you in trouble. She going to get a branch to tap that behind. But the fact is, these kids today, they act like their parents can't even discipline no more. You can't even talk to your kids a certain way. It's mental abuse. Oh, call the police. Oh, call this, that, and other. That's just even if you the biological parents of all the children. So the point is, we need to recognize and understand how this demonic society is really uprooting and dividing this family. Forget about what they're doing to the minds of your children in the education system and what they are incorporating in this so-called educational society system. That's a whole nother discussion in itself. It's all about counterproductive and taking down the beauty of a male and female raising a family and raising the children up in a unit. And that's the next. Oh, we're going to talk about that in part 2. And that's a real deep discussion right there.
As we close, I wanted to share this with those of you who are watching us on the replay or you're on the live right now. First of all, thank you so very much. But I wanted to share this. And this was very important for me as well. I always made my children, I wanted them to know that they were one family, that they were brothers and sisters, period.
Ain't no step, nothing.
From my oldest son all the way down to the last one. These are all your brothers and sisters. I never said, that's your brother over there, that's your sister over there. No, they were all your brothers and sisters. All of them, y'all, all y'all blood is connected, right? All y'all run through the same bloodline, except my oldest son, but even still, I still told him,
that's mine.
Oh, I didn't
feed him long enough, they're gonna look like you.
I never even had to tell him that. He just knew he was the oldest brother, right? But even though, but I always said that's your brother. I never divided them, even when the two families. I never ever, and I used to pray about it. God, I don't ever want them to think that I want them divided. Because listen, whether I'm here or not, these children are always going to be connected by blood. And so it was very important to me to raise them as siblings and to let them know that you look out for your younger brother, you look out for your little sister, you know, that's your family, that's who you are connected to. Until this day, I thank God that they are all very connected. Some are closer to one another. You know, a brother might be closer to this brother, whatever. But they all talk. They're all connected.
Jump over, do this,
and I thank God for that. But that also came through what we did and what we established, and it also came from prayer. So I want to encourage you, those of you who are continuing to ask your questions. I'm gonna tell you this one thing. I have a praying husband, right? And my husband has a praying wife. And I believe that a lot of things that we were able to deal with was because we were very much full of prayer. You know what I mean? And it just was who we were. We taught our children that, you know what I mean? They saw that, who we are. And that is what we taught our children as well, because I'm a firm believer that if you don't cover it in prayer, it's just like it's not covered at all.
Interesting. It is so interesting about all of my children. You know, they call my house a synagogue. They call it a place of worship. You know, and there's a reason why they look at it that way. And there's a reason why they look at us in the manner that they do. And it's because of the
sometimes they do, sometimes they can't stand you.
Well, they
all love me. I'm
wonderful. Let me tell you something. partner. Let me tell you something. I'll be very honest with you.
Hallelujah.
I'll be very honest with you. My children at that time, they talk to each other, they'll talk to her, but the one thing they say, don't tell daddy. Now they keep a lot of secrets from me. They don't want me to know. They keep a heck of a lot of, I'm telling you, sometimes she helped them with a lot of secrets too. But the point of the matter is they keep a lot of secrets from me because there's a lot of stuff I wouldn't be going for. But the point of the matter is that's the beauty of being a father, because I father them, I further them into existence. I ain't got no time to be your friend, partner. And I got 7 sons. So I got to make sure that they are upright men. And they are upright in accordance to the will and the direction of the master of the universe. I ain't got no time for that. We deal with that when they get to the heavenly court with me.
All right,
The point of the matter is,
we love y'all.
Oh my, this is a good one. We're gonna have another discussion. We're gonna continue this discussion on May the 10th,
May 10th,
7 p.m. Make sure you tune in. Invite your friends. We're gonna have some guests for the first time this season on Marriage Motivated Moment. That we're gonna talk more about these having children in your home. I'm not with all this blended and step family.
We don't say blended, but y'all know what we mean. And the reason why people tuned in because we said
me and Bernie Man, but I tell y'all
family and blended family.
Ain't no we know.
Okay, we don't got time for Bernie.
Bernie always here. You hear what I just? Y'all make sure y'all come back on May 10th. We love you. This was a great show. Thanks for tuning in. Peace and blessings.
May 10th. We'll see y'all.